Welcome back to the shop, everybody. I'm Chad. This is Carter Engineering and Fabrication, week 17. I'm going to change it up and do something a little different this week. I had a really productive Friday and a productive weekend, and there's a but, not a lot of it was video worthy or really that interesting to share. So I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to show you a shop update that I did about 2 years ago now. I've been using it consistently. It's working out great. So I'm going to share the files, go through the design, but let's kick things off. I'll show you me using it. It's the extension cord reel that runs a pair of reels. Anyway, enough talking. Let's show. This probably doesn't need a voiceover, but I'm just gonna annotate myself. Yeah, so 1-to-1 speed. This isn't sped up. I'm unhooking the cord from the wall hook and giving it my best enthusiastic run across the shop. And when you're all finished, we're gonna put it away. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And done. Good job, buddy. Good job. So we're gonna start at the beginning. It's a logical place to start. I made a quick spreadsheet here trying to figure out what loads the cable would see to not sag too much and whatever. So just rolling through this, pretty simple calculation to estimate based on the weight, which I used the weight of the extension cord from the Amazon packaging, 5 pounds, the cable weight per foot, the span, and then acceptable sag, cable diameter, and then working load limit. So from that, you get the total load, so it basically just averages out the load of the payload, the extension cord plus the cable load, and then the required tension based on this formula, WL squared over 8 times the sag dimension, and that gets you 300 pounds. And to me, that was a good sanity check of I can apply a 300-pound load to the members in my building and feel pretty confident that it's going to be fine. And historically, it has been fine for several years. Similarly, the stress in the cable is pretty low with a high safety factor compared to the working load limit. So with all of that out of the way, I did some searching on where I could get best prices for hardware. A lot of this, like the cable railing, industry has a lot of really nice stainless hardware. So I was able to find, we're looking at, erigging.com, I found 3/16 stainless. They have lag studs, and then I used the 1/4-inch thread extra long to go into my garage door bracketry hardware, as well as through the partition wall into my office, actually into where I am now. So pretty inexpensive stuff. It's intended to be swedged, with like a fancy swedging tool. I ended up just smashing it with a hydraulic press, and it didn't deform uniformly, but it for the purposes of what we're doing here, it's 10 feet off the ground, nobody will ever see it. It works perfectly well, so saved quite a bit of money in that instance. So that E-rigging was the one, and then the other one was just a typical Amazon order. I found galvanized cable, 3/16 cable, 100-foot coil. So I have 2 runs that are about 30 feet long. And then I used skateboard bearings because they're very inexpensive. So the whole 30 pack, which was enough to do both reels for $8. And I'll get into the reasons why I use skateboard bearings in a moment. And then the star of the show is the 14 gauge extension cord, 3-prong lit. It seems to be pretty high quality. I tried to pick something that had good reviews. So with that said, let's jump into the design real quick. So to start off, this is, we're now back in SolidWorks, and this design is a bit extra. I think the original inspiration for this came from a woodworking magazine. Came from a woodworking magazine, and they were just using like shower curtain hooks, and I wanted something that like slid, effortlessly. And I started with like a narrow section, but I ended up with this, and the thought was that the extra width, would help keep it stable. So if you pull on it, it's gonna basically just reduce the moment load on the part. And the reason I chose skateboard bearings is I wanted something with a very hard surface, significantly harder than the surface of the cable. And that means that with the cable's the soft spot or the soft item, it's going to be the one that wears. And over a long period of time, you're wearing out the large item, not the small item. So it's not a frequent use thing, but in my mind, it made sense that this was the low cost solution. So I've got pockets on each end. So each section of the loop of the extension cord is captured by one of these carriers. So you put the bearing in, and then I just used some stainless, safety wire to basically wire the bearing in place. I could have done something different with the 3D print, but again, simple is best. This was a simple solution. And then you have the 3 locations, basically where I just zip tie the extension cord into loops. So in this case, it's slotted so that it can go over the cable, and then all you have to do is install the cable with the crimped in fittings, make sure you have the right number of bearings in place, and then after the fact, because it took longer to print than it did to install the cable. So jumping into bamboo, and I didn't have these printers when I made this. I was still running the Creality Ender. Any printer is fine. They're still operating great with PLA over 2 years later. A little bit of support needed at the bottom to capture that first bearing surface. If I went back and redid it now, I could probably change that to where it comes up and self-supports, and you could make this a little simpler. I may make that edit. I will make all these files available. I think it's a cool solution. I haven't really gotten to the why yet, but I'll get into that in a minute. So, yeah. So I tried to capture a better view of this operation with some of the lights dimmed. Hopefully this helps explain. So up here at the top, you can see the 6 carriers and the loops that I made. And all the loops are over 8 feet, so you're never going to run into them or anything. Plenty of headroom is maintained. So I'm just going to drag this a little bit just to show the loops that are naturally flowing. It pretty well averages, so everything moves freely. And then when it comes in, that extra width really helps it nest and come together. And then I've got the hook on the wall for storage. So, yeah. Man, I gotta work on that RBF. Look how happy I am. Look at that guy, so happy. So anyway, let me go into the files here real quick and just see. So I'm going to make the wall hook and the bearing reel holder bit. Those are all going to be available on my Google Drive. It's enough talking. All right, quick sidebar. If you guys have been around for a minute, you might remember the red, completely clapped out plow truck that I bought and partially parted out. Got tired of looking at it, listed it for sale, and this super cool dude named Lochlain bought it from me. He was excited to have it. He bolted a turbo on it, and he wanted to show his Ford buddies up in a burnout competition, and I believe he did. He sent me a video of it. I'm going to include it here. Apparently it still didn't want to die. It let it cool down a little bit. It started up and drove itself on the trailer from what I gathered. So I'll try to link his page, but I'm so glad he followed up and sent me that video. Yeah, let's see it. so burnout video, absolutely awesome. I'm glad he shared that with me. That was so cool. Yeah. As far as the cord reels go, the why of that is that I just despise tripping over cords or anything to make access of tools and equipment faster. So if you can remove any effort in the steps it takes to get something plugged in my mind, that's a win. Most of the space has, a car or a fixture table or whatever in the middle of it. So I thought 2 aisles on either side, power is always available. A lot of my tools are transitioning towards battery power, but sometimes you just need you need a real grinder plugged into the wall. So having those cords, I find that I use it all the time. I plug in my shop vac, I plug in a grinder. I'm sharing it because I think somebody else might get some use for it. I'll throw a total up, a dollar value, per side as far as what it costs to do this, but I think it's comparable. So as long as your structure can accommodate it, it might be a good alternative to a wall-mounted cord reel. You might be able to get away with a shorter extension cord or whatever. So just throwing this out there for somebody. The files are available. I linked my Google Drive. If you got any questions, drop a comment. Next week we're back to the regularly scheduled stuff, but I made 50 subscribers this week. It's a small milestone, but it is a milestone. I'm very thankful. Thank you to number 50 for pushing me over that edge. That's cool. Next week I'm hoping to get back into some bigger stuff. I've got some plans for my personal truck that needs some maintenance, needs some love. I'm going to do a couple fun things cosmetically to prep it for next winter, and then back onto all of the shop projects that are going on. Big one being the Bonneville. Some parts are coming in. We're going to get some work done. So if you like this, you want to see more of me talking, and I like to talk apparently, just not to people. So this is working out great. Likes, comments, subscribe. Let's do all the things, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks.